Herb give you one of those?
Yeah. Go. Hey, yes.
I was trying to.
Welcome, everyone. We, according to my phone, need to start. It's 4 o'clock, and we welcome you to the Board of Commissioners meeting for Washington County today, August 17th, 2021. We appreciate those who are in attendance. We emphasize that this meeting is also on Zoom, and for those who are joining us there, thank you for being here. This meeting will also be rebroadcast through our community education channel, numbers 22 and 108 at 10 a.m., 2 p.m., and 5:30 p.m. And we know that those are just riveting times for you, and you'll just want to tune in. But we sure appreciate their being here. Thank you to the CEC for all that they do to make sure this is broadcast to the public. Having said that, we'll begin our meeting today with an invocation. Father Bittman from the local St. George Catholic Church, welcome, and the time is yours. Thank you.
Let us pray. Lord God, give us your spirit that takes delight serving others, and give us your wisdom that discerns the common good, and give us the courage we need to pursue the truth. Grant us your compassion, and continue to bless the works of this administration in service to all your people. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father.
Please tell your congregation hello. Great. We'll now have a Pledge of Allegiance by Scott Messel, who will lead us. And there he is. Okay.
Audience, please rise. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Our first item of business is the consent agenda, which is a means of expediting the consideration of routine matters. If a commissioner requests that items be removed from the consent agenda, those items are placed at the beginning of the regular agenda. Other than requests to remove items, a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda is not debatable.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda items A, consideration of auditor-approved claims for payment of August 4th, 2021 through August 17th, 2021. B, consideration of regular commission meeting minutes of August 3rd, 2021. C, consideration of administrative adjustments, real property. D, consideration of administrative adjustments, personal property. E, consideration of applications for property tax abatement. F, consideration of road department expenses related to the Sand Hollow Road project. And G, acknowledgement of publishing notice of adoption of ordinance number 2021-1185-0 on Saturday, August 7th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to second the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Our next items are regular agenda items for consideration. First of all, a presentation. We would like to recognize the Washington County Emergency Services Team for outstanding service. You know, we often make jokes about and tease with our rivals in Iron County up north, and there's certainly been a history of well over 160 years of such jokes going back and forth. But the truth is that we cooperate with every county that needs our help. And when the request came out for help following disastrous flooding that occurred in Iron County, some of the things that they needed, we had. And having said that, I'd like to ask Jason to come up, introduce your team, and tell us what occurred and what you did.
This is Jason. He's so great.
Thank you, Vanna.
No, so my team is here, and they're a great group. And we got Coy Bryant and Tiffany Martineau and Jason Bradley. They all wear various hats in our office, and they're a lot of times required to go do stuff and that really is not in their job description. And they always step up and do a fabulous job, and I can always count on them. So really do appreciate them. With the flooding that occurred in Iron County, in Cedar City, well, it actually kind of started with the train derailment up there that we went up and assisted with, but then the flooding came in Cedar and Iron County, and then in Enoch. And during that time, none of our emergency management group, you just can't plan for everything. And so to kind of compensate for that, you establish good working relationships with your counterparts in other counties and other agencies. And so we have a really good type of working relationship in the region. They reached out to us and said, hey, we need some sandbags, we need some pumps, we need some help. So we kind of rallied our forces here in the county, and multiple fire departments went up with pumps and manpower to help with that. And then we also took up sandbags multiple times to help with that. And then kind of when everything settled down, the flooding stopped, we went up and helped do assessments on damage, which helps in their declaration and helps to meet thresholds that they got to meet for some help or for some funding. So that's kind of what we did for several days. And again, these guys just stepped up and dropped what they were doing, and then picked it up when they got back and put in a little extra time to get things done. But they were fabulous, and so I appreciate them.
Super. Well, thank you, Jason. And on behalf of Commissioner Cousins, who I spoke with today, I mentioned that you and your team would be recognized, and he said, let us return the favor. So count on our partners. Great.
Chairman, we received a letter from the Mayor of Cedar as well. Thank you.
Please. Yeah, if you'd like to comment on it. Go ahead.
Anyway, the Mayor of Cedar sent us a nice letter acknowledging all of their hard work. And, you know, as I was thinking about this, I remember very clearly when we had the disaster in Hilldale, how very quickly that morning, and the Sheriff's Office will recognize or remember this, how many agencies rushed to our aid. And it was just, it was really moving to recognize how quickly we joined together in this area. And so I appreciate that we were able to help them or offer them a little bit of help, because I know that the time will come when Cedar City and Iron County will come to our rescue. And that's the way we do things in southern Utah. And it really is kind of almost emotional when you see that cooperation that we have. And we just have just a wonderful emergency operations team. I'm just, whenever there's an emergency, you guys make me feel better, because I know it's going to be taken care of. So thank you for your hard work. And I don't know if, I'll just go ahead and read it. This is to Jason and emergency services staff. On July 26, 2021, Cedar City experienced one of the worst flooding events in our city's history. I was compelled to declare a state of emergency, and we have since learned that this storm was comparable to a 600-year storm. As we quickly discovered, we did not have the resources or supplies to accommodate everyone needing assistance, trying to protect their homes and property. So when I reached out to different organizations to obtain resources, we were in desperate need of. I was absolutely mind blown by how quickly you were to respond. I, along with the entire city of Cedar City, cannot express how grateful we are that you were willing to assist us with the damage assessment information you had provided. Both you and your crew gave us vital information and education on ways to better prepare our city for this future disasters. We truly appreciate the service you graciously provided that helped us understand the best ways to assist our community during such a devastating time. Please extend my gratitude to your staff. Thank you. That's Mayor Wilson. So hopefully you saw that letter. I think you did.
Thank you.
And I can add to the fact that up at Bryan Head, I was meeting with some folks up there and for dinner, and I saw that there was a large crew, a fire crew up there, and I said, well, you're out fighting fires? And they said, actually, we just got back, and they were in Oregon. So it's kind of interesting. Adam Hyder's shaking his head saying, yep, we go all over the place, and even if that means a whole different state. So thanks for what you do.
Chair, do you mind if we call the EOC team up and just get a quick picture with them?
Absolutely. Come on up. Bring your sandbags and shovels with you. Well, I don't think they're paid by the hour, but we'd like to now have a presentation on our 2020 Washington County financial audit. Appreciate Hinton Burdick and the representatives coming forward. And
Hi,
first
but
of
I
all,
just wanted
Susan.
to interrupt just a second and let them know, we have Mike Spilker here today and Steve Palmer. They are part of the team that met with you back in March as we discussed starting the audit for the 2020 year. And they came and did a deep dive into our books and into our financials. And we just really appreciate the relationship that we have with them. They help us a lot. They have provided, you've got, the audit. And they're going to come and give us just a report. He's brought some slides with him. If he wants to come up here, I just wanted to make sure that he knew that we sure appreciate him and his team.
Thank you.
Honorable Commission and County staff, it's a pleasure for me to be here tonight or this afternoon to present the audit of the 2020 financial statements. Just as, I guess, the first note is, if you look at our report on page 1 and 2, we issued the report in June, but then the county has like 15 different component units that have to be rolled into the statements, so we have to wait a bit of time before we can actually issue and report here to the commission. So wanted to mention that before we get started. Susan said, my name is Mike Spilker. I'm the engagement partner. Steve Palmer is the audit partner, and Victoria is the audit manager. We tried to convince her to be here today. She probably would have been a lot more interesting than either one of Steve and I as a partner, but if you have any difficult questions, we can round her up and get those answered. Like Susan mentioned, and maybe first of all, I should thank the commission and the accounting staff that do such a good job in helping us with the audit and getting that completed. We have what is it, 117 pages we need to go through here tonight. Just kidding. And so it's a concerted effort and a major effort to get these out, and quite an accomplishment. As part of the audit, we issue a couple of reports. The first one is the report on the financial statements that I mentioned on page 1, 2, and 3. And that report indicates that we've looked at the financial statements, their presentation of the statements, the notes and disclosures and the numbers, and we've audited the underlying numbers and found that they're fairly stated in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. in all material respects. Basically what we call an unmodified or clean opinion, which is what you're looking for. And then again, as I always mention, as part of the financial audit for local government, we're required to look at the county's compliance with laws and regulations, and we're also required to look at the internal controls the county has in place. And our report over that is on page 113 and 14. And with that report, again, there's no reportable conditions to be noted. We included a schedule of findings and recommendations, but there's no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no compliance items to report this year. So, and also in addition, we in the state of Utah, we are required to follow the state auditor's compliance supplement in relation to the county and issue a report on that, and that's found on page 115 and 116. And there were no compliance findings noted there. So overall, clean opinions all the way down the board. Very good report this year. We're going to cover a few things in like some graphs that we have here, but I wanted to point out maybe something that would be noticeable when you go through and read the statements page by page. If you look at page 84 of the bound document, the grants fund is where the county recorded the CARES Act grant revenues that were received for 2020 and expended, and so you'll see that revenue line item at the top there, which is about 14.8 million. And so that's going to be a significant change from the prior years that you'll probably want to know. So with that, I'll just go through some of these key indicators and so forth that we put together. First, we'll talk about the general fund. You can see that this is a 5-year trend analysis. The first thing we're looking at here is cash and fund balance. And so we see a steady increase there in your cash and fund balance in the general fund. If we look down at the revenues and expenses, and this also includes transfers in and out of the general fund, we can see we've gone from about 27.9 million to about 35.9 million over the last 5 years. So that shows about a 35% growth in the county's activities that are just reported in the general fund for the last 5 years. So that's quite a significant growth and number of transactions and so forth to keep track of and budget for. If we look at the next graph here, we're looking at assessing and collecting. What we did was we just took some of the most significant funds of the county to prepare these graphs. I believe it was like all the funds that have over $5 million in fund balance. So that's why we're looking at these and not all of them. See a pretty consistent trend there with the cash in the assessing and collecting fund, as well as assessing and collecting revenue fund expenses and revenues there. Just a little bit of a blip there in 2019 where the expenses went up, but pretty consistent over the last 5 years. Next, we're looking at the travel board fund, cash and fund balance there. Again, pretty consistent, going from 11.5 to 13 million, 13.9. Travel board revenues and expenses remain pretty consistent other than here in 2017. And in 2017, if I remember correctly, there was about a $1.4 million transfer out of the travel board fund to the recreation fund and the sports recreation fund that existed at that time. It was a one-time thing, so that would explain that bump there in 2017. Next is the capital projects fund. We see the the cash and fund balance there going from 12 million to 25 million. And the capital projects fund is basically set up, as you know, to accumulate resources to provide for capital projects, capital improvements that the county foresees coming down the road, such as the building next door. And so you see that increase there in the cash and setting aside those revenues for future use. The expenses and revenue trend analysis doesn't really mean a whole lot, because you'll have some significant projects one year, then you'll set aside revenues and then expend them the next year. So you'll see kind of fluctuations like we see there in this chart. Well, that makes sense. Next, we have the Municipal Services Fund. Again, pretty consistent trends. We'll note that most, if not all, of the county's funds are consistent and increasing over the years with the growth. The drop there in the expenditures for the Municipal Service Fund in 2020, we had, I think I can't remember the number, but there was some fairly significant interfund expenses that were transferred out of the Muni Services Fund between the general fund and the grants fund. And some of that had to do with the COVID relief, the CARES Act monies that were expended in the grants fund. So that's kind of why that dropped this year. Next, we're looking at the Recreation Fund. It's fairly consistent from year to year. This accounts for the recreation tax revenues and related expenditures for that. Nothing really significant to note there, I don't think. Corridor preservation. This one is specific special revenue fund. So we kind of expect this to go up and down, kind of similar to a capital projects fund. So lots of swings in this one, but that's expected from year to year as you prepare and set aside revenues for projects and so forth. Next item that I wanted to cover that's another really positive note for the county's financial statements and the activity for the year. If you look at this is kind of line item by line item, the different major long-term liabilities of the county, your bonds, leases, and pension liabilities and so forth. And you can see that due to regularly scheduled debt service payments, the county's debt has decreased by 10.4 million. But also, probably the most significant is the $7 million net increase to equity due to the changes in your net pension liability for the year. So, like a lot of local governments, especially outside of Utah, we see those net pension liabilities increasing. And so this is a really positive thing. It's something you just don't see every day that especially we don't report in other states that we audit. I want to draw your attention to that. And then finally, this is a recap of the fund balances. This first chart here is just all the significant ones, everything that was, like I say, over 5 million. And all of these significant funds, general, travel board, capital projects, community service, assessing and collecting, recreation, habitat conservation, and corridor preservation, they all experienced increases in fund balance for the year. So that just shows you the difference between them. And again, the same holds true. This is all of the remaining funds that the county operates. All of these had increases, slight increases, or were maintained at pretty close to the same levels during the year as well. So we can see the chart there from 2020 to 2019. Again, very positive report. It's always nice to present an audit when we have good financial information to go over and no findings and recommendations. I'd open up if there are any questions. We'd be happy to answer those at this point.
Mike, we can appreciate you and your team. I know you spend a lot of time, and including our team, that provides you with the information, and of course you get to look and see if it's all been put in the right places and accounted for, and I can assure the public that's why we have audits, and they show that that was done properly. Basically, you said there's no findings, which
Right.
would mean corrective actions.
Yeah, we do issue, it's not required, but we issue what we call an other items letter, things that don't meet the definition of a reportable condition, things that the county is aware of, or smaller things that they're working on to make improvements. So we want to make ourselves worthwhile. So, and we want to be a team player and work with the county to help you just improve from year to year. So that's our approach.
Well, we definitely appreciate you doing this audit, and we appreciate our great staff in the clerk auditor's office. Kim Hafen and Susan Lewis are just doing great jobs, and just Susan, well,
You were here in 2012.
you were here until the end of June, but and like I've mentioned before, Kim Hafen has always been the clerk auditor of the year in Washington County, and he's been getting recognized on a state level as well. So just like to point that out if I hadn't already. Since he's here, no, but I joke around about it, but as county commissioners, we really appreciate our clerk auditor's office. They just do a great job for us, help us, and everything we're doing. So.
I just want to say, I'm not an accounting nerd, thankfully. I am a finance geek, though. And the very first meeting, Susan, I think I had after getting sworn in 2 weeks ago was with you, and the very first question, if you remember, was this report. So I can tell you, I will read every page of this and enjoy it, because I've been waiting for a couple weeks. I'm that kind of a sick person. But this is excellent. Thank you.
I'll tell you, there was a county commissioner that used to be here, and now he works in a rather large special service district. And I noticed how he's copying all of our clerk auditors' financial statement processes, and that's because they're the best.
Expected. Also, probably we couldn't have done this without the treasurer's department as well. We appreciate.
Oh yes, I apologize for.
So are there
Good
any?
to know that somebody's looking at it.
I will read it. You may have some questions later on. I'll see.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to working with you. All right, having said that, we'd like to, I believe, it's a presentation, but there's no action required, as far as I can see there. Our next report is our emergency services report. Looks like we have, Undersheriff was called out, so we appreciate you.
Yeah, his phone went off, so.
Thank you, Nate.
Brooksby,
for being
it's
here.
good to see
Yeah,
you
good
here.
afternoon, Commissioners, thank you. So just an overview of the last 30 days, search and rescue calls. So we've had a total of 19. Total man hours, 403. Search and rescue incidents for the year is that we're at 111. We're still trailing above last year's record high. We were hoping to see that go down, but it hasn't. And for information, always curious to see how many of the residents are Washington County residents versus tourists coming in. So out of the 19 we had, well, this number's off, it doesn't, but I'm showing 10 in county and 17 out of county. There might have been multiple people on each rescue, so they count each victim that they might help get out. So it'll be a total of 27 individuals, but 17 of those from out of the area. Some highlights, so we did get some search and rescue personnel called out to help with some of the flooding in Enterprise. I always say this time of year, monsoon season, we literally go from fire to flood, back to fire in a 3-week period. So we've seen some, basically it was a vehicle in a wash that had been flooded downstream, and so the concern was if it was occupied or not. Enterprise Fire ended up getting on scene and confirming that it was an abandoned vehicle that had been washed down in the floods. We recovered a sunken jet ski out at Sand Hollow. One thing that we're in partnership with the Water Conservancy District, anytime a boat or jet ski sinks in the lake, it's our search and rescue members that go out and recover that. So using lift bags, the Water Conservancy District has provided supplies for trapping oil and gasoline, so it's not contaminating the reservoir any more than it absolutely has to on that initial sink. So they provided us dry suits, so hazmat wise our divers are protected. We're in the contaminated waters. Lost hiker in Squirrel Canyon out by Hilldale. Eel hiker in Snow Canyon, lost hiker in Pine Valley. I would say any time that we have a search and rescue on Pine Valley, it's typically long in duration. The only way you're gonna get up there is on foot or on horseback. ATVs don't do any good. Hard to find a landing zone for helicopters up there as well. So anytime we get a call up there, we know it's gonna be a long night. Sheep's Bridge Road, a lost hiker out there. Couple UTV accidents in Sand Hollow, that's pretty common. Unfortunately, we did end up with a recovery, a fall victim off Zen Trail in Green Valley area, female out hiking and ended up falling and ended up being.
I'm surprised that there was a lost hiker on Sheep's Bridge.
Usually up in the trail systems up there, more cowbell, the mountain bike trails. So they'll get lost up in, there's a China wash that's pretty common, but typically they don't come in necessarily because they're lost, a lot of dehydration issues.
Okay. Because you can almost see a community from.
Yeah. Well, if in that China wash area, it's a pretty good draw down there, so we have had people get lost in that area. But typically, the calls are more associated with dehydration, that people just aren't packing enough water for the adventure. And then just one more final thing. So tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock at the Grafton Building, we're doing our search and rescue annual steak fry. The three of you are welcome to come and attend, but just a way to kind of pat them on the backs and show our appreciation for them. So, should be it.
Thank you so much, Chief.
Thank you for that report. You'll be interested to know, Nate, that a friend of mine used to rent wave runners. Rented him to not some accountants, Mike, it's okay, but someone else who wasn't familiar, couldn't understand why their houseboat was going so slow, went out back and noticed that they had tied both wave runners up backwards and had sunk like weights in the bottom. Another one of those watercraft recoveries, but interesting. Thank you for doing that. All right, our next items are purchase requests from Ray.
Okay. The first one I have here is for tourism / Dixie Center, kind of a little bit of both. It's new exterior signage for the Dixie Center. This is a total of $45,994.13. The next one is for emergency services. This is for 4 sets of a quick saw, a cordless cutoff tool set, and a mini tactical torch with aluminum cylinders. These are all extraction tools for SWAT. 1 set will be our asset. The other 3 sets will be dispersed to regional partners. The next one is for IT. It is software support for the assessor's office for their assessing. Let's see. I have the real, it's their computer-assisted mass appraisal is used to help the appraisals place value on each property in the county. That's $31,317.73. The next one is a blanket purchase order for the commissary out at the jail. This is for $50,000. This will get us through the next few months of that. The next one is our current fleet management program. So the sheriff's office is trading in 3 trucks and buying 3 trucks, and each cost is $47,299, which brings our cost at 0. And unless there's any questions, that's all I have.
Ray, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Appreciate that. Especially that one that said 0.
Right?
Those are great. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the purchase requests that have been presented to us by Ray.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Our next item, number 5, is consideration of ordinance number 2021-1186-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County by Highway 18 and Baker Dam Road intersection near Central from A20 agricultural 20-acre minimum lot size zone and the OST 20 open space transition 20-acre minimum lot size zone to the PD plan development zone. Scott.
Yes, Commissioners. You have the slides in front of you at this time. Sorry, I'm trying to get the presentation up. The applicant is Slade Hughes. He owns approximately 83 acres just outside of Central. And right there's the parcel. It's highlighted. It's across the street. So here's Central up here. Here is the 83-acre parcel. The applicant wishes to develop approximately 20 acres of the parcel at this time. Came in and requested to right now, you can see that it is zoned open space transition and then agricultural, 20-acre minimum lot size. And the applicant went before the Planning Commission requesting to rezone the property to C2, which would allow for an RV park, and then also higher density, when I say higher density, high density for the county, which would be allow for several fourplexes to be constructed in the R3 zone. The Planning Commission recommended to the County Commission a different zone. The Planning Commission is recommending that the County Commission approve a blanket PD for this parcel. The PD process is set up so that the applicant would have to come back with the project plan and follow all the codes and ordinances that are in place through the PD process, but they are recommending approval of a blanket PD at this time. Some of the cities, such as St. George, it's more common for the blanket PD. It doesn't mean that they can come in and do anything under the PD. Any project plan has to be approved. So in essence, in a way, it would be kind of an amended PD when the applicant comes in with a project, if the County Commission approves a blanket PD.
Is a blanket PD, that's what the ordinance, what do we have before? Oh, it is a blanket PD, okay.
Yeah.
Our
Stood that
commissioners, a blanket PD would be a first for the county. I don't think we've ever done that before. Not clearly laid out in our ordinance how it would work, but our office is comfortable, and as long as the applicant is okay with going that route, our office is comfortable with moving forward and seeing how this goes. As Scott said, the applicant couldn't do much with the property until he came in and amended that with his plan, right? So it was basically saying this is going to be a plan developed. We're just waiting on that plan. That would come back before the Planning Commission and before the project could begin to be developed.
So really, if the zone change is granted, then the applicant can go back and address access issues and drainage issues and other things that, to make sure that the development would fit in there. And then at that point, is it kind of almost like a conditional use?
No.
It still has to come back through the approval process?
Correct, yeah. So they would come in, just real quick, the process is concept plan. They'd come in with more detailed plans showing what they're proposing on the property. And they would get feedback from the Planning Commission. There's no formal action taken by the Planning Commission. The following step would be going through the project plan, and that's where they really the meat of the project is determined, and, they spend the money with the engineering, they get the road accesses figured out, make sure water, we do detailed site plan review. For instance, let's just, for sake of the story, they want to move forward with an RV park. It would have to meet all of the requirements of our RV park ordinance, and they'd have to have all the open space details, and everything would be tied to the PD development. So let's say he came in later wanting to have some residential, some commercial. Then when we have the site plans and the project plan in more detail, we can say, okay, this 15 acres right here will be PDR for residential. This over here will be PDC for commercial. And so nothing can develop at this time. It's just granting the zoning.
Did you had a fair amount of people show up to the public hearing?
Yes, we did. It was a popular public hearing.
What was their bigger concern?
There were a lot of people opposed to the project.
Based on?
As it was presented.
As it was presented, and perception of how it would develop.
Okay.
Concerns about, there were comments about the RV park becoming long-term RV or mobile home park. And that's something that can't happen with the commercial aspect of the PD. So it would have to be one of the short, if they moved forward with the RV, it would have to be the short-term stay.
Okay.
Well, I think the point of the PD is that we catch a glimpse, if not even a pretty thorough look, at what's going to happen there before it does.
Yes.
And even if the intent is of the 83 acres to only use a portion of it, this allows us to, see what that impact would be. And I think the citizens kind of wanted to know that too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So in advance, they can say, well, what's going to happen to my property rights or my view or whatever, so.
And just along with that, is when this goes back through the PD process, there will be another public hearing. So the public will have a chance at the Planning Commission level to comment on any proposals that come forward.
Thank you.
What was the vote of the planning commission on this?
It was a long meeting. I believe split. Yeah, it was 2-2 and then became 3-2 in favor of moving forward with the PD, if I remember right.
So it was 2-2 on the initial request.
Yes.
To make it commercial.
3-2.
For the PD.
Yep.
Okay.
And as the applicant's here, I'm assuming the PD is not your preferred route, obviously, because I know not what your application was, but you're okay moving forward on the plan development?
I prefer my first route, but I'm okay with moving forward. I think it'd be appropriate, Mr. Chairman, if
Please come to the mic and.
I would like to move forward. I'm a little nervous, as Eric mentioned, that this will be a first PD in our county. Our county has been asked to go towards PD, but I hate being the guinea pig, but I'm willing to figure it out, and hopefully it works.
Great. Any other questions of Scott? Okay, call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consideration of ordinance number 2021-1186-0, an ordinance rezoning a certain portion of Washington County by Highway 18 and Baker Dam Road intersection near Central from A20 zone to the OST-20 zone to the PD land development zone.
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
Okay, thank you.
Our next item, consideration of ordinance number 2021-1187-0, an ordinance adopting and implementing Title V, Chapter 5 of the Washington County Code regarding dispersed camping on unincorporated and public land within Washington County.
So this all started about 6 months ago. Eric Clark and some of his staff, we took a drive out to Warner Valley to see if we could address some of the issues that they were having out there with some of the ranchers. Obviously, all over the county, we're seeing recreation in areas that we typically didn't see. Out on West Mountain or south of Enterprise and Bulldog Pass, where you could drive those roads and not see a soul. And now we're seeing a lot of recreation, ATVs, camping. About 4 months ago, we ended up working with Sitla, clear off out by Gold Strike Mine. They had an island of Sitla land out there, and there was a group of about 10 campers and 30 people that are basically just homesteading out there. So we worked with them being the property owner and them not wanting the individuals on their property. So basically we addressed it like as a trespass. So we ended up removing them. But so we ended up talking closely with Stephen Scott, reached out to BLM, Forest Service to see some of the common issues that they've been seeing. They do have federal law that gives them some enforcement options on federal land, whether it be Forest Service or BLM. We didn't have anything to address some of those at the county level. So we do have some state laws specific to trespassing, littering, things of that nature that we would address out in Warner Valley or out off Sheep's Bridge Road. I know BLM developed, I think, 50 campsites out there, but they're still seeing a bunch of overflow into dispersed camping. So some of this, so the solution was to come up with some county ordinance that would give us some enforcement options in trying to address some of these problems in these rural areas of the community. So one of them, so talking about if somebody just leaves a campsite, you'll see this quite often in Forest Service. When I did have a fifth, what was annoying, you'd see people basically park in a camping spot and just leave it there through the whole summer and not give anyone the opportunity to use that space. So this will give us some teeth there that if it's abandoned property or it doesn't look like it's been utilized, we can a 72-hour window to address that and remove that property. Obviously, if it's property of value, it would be a hold for owner, where the owner would just remove it temporarily and then the owner could retrieve it at a later date. Talks specifically about some watering sheds, so your cattle troughs and things of that nature. I know we had some ranchers out in Warner Valley that their watering holes were being vandalized or being used for purposes they weren't intended for. And so we kind of went back and forth with this. We ended up following a rule that Sitla has in their rules, not laws, rules. So, but it was some guidance at least so not allowing camping within 200 feet of a watering hole, and that's defined in this ordinance. Forest Service has a 15-day limit within a 28 period of camping. BLM's is 14, Sitla's is 15. We went ahead and just went with 15 to be more consistent with Sitla and Forest Service. So basically, you can camp for a period of 15 days within a 28-day period in the same spot. But after that you'd have to disperse and find another spot. Also in looking at the violation, so we couldn't, if law enforcement had some enforcement options, that it couldn't be civil in nature, so we had to do it as a criminal offense. In discussions with the county attorney's office, we went to the lowest level of a criminal offense, which is infraction, so no jail time possible. And if you look at the Utah State bail schedule for an infraction, there's a range from $100 to $750. So we decided to be reasonable, and we attached a suggested fine on any violations of this ordinance as an infraction with a $300 fine.
Commissioners, if I could, Chief Brooksby and Stephen Scott have done a great job on this. The goal isn't to go after dispersed campers in our county, the vast majority of whom are super responsible and just out enjoying the outdoors. But there are people who we've seen a huge increase in the people on our public lands during COVID, and this is to help our law enforcement have the ability to help those people move on who are out there abusing things, disrupting things, costing ranches a lot of money, and we just felt like we needed an additional tool in the toolbox of the law enforcement. Yeah,
I really appreciate this ordinance, and what we've been looking at is we really don't have any tools to help anybody. We've had ranchers come in and say, you know, people are camping right on top of my water. They're bathing their dogs and washing their dishes in the water. And as some people may be aware and others may not, is that often that water has to be hauled there. And, you know, so at great cost, they haul out water and then suddenly that water is polluted. And we're in the middle of a little bit related to this is working with the local BLM to have a contract with them. We really need to just be able to have something in our ordinance so that when we go out, some people are doing this just because they don't know any better. So some of this is education, but I think the sheriff's office needs to have ordinances that they can go out and really address this with the public that are doing the wrong thing and educate them if it takes an infraction. You know, maybe it costs them $100 or $700. I mean, $300 is what we're settling on, right?
Yeah, but I would say our initial approach is definitely going to be the education side. We're having a similar experience in Zone 6 with the new Desert Reserve area that there's going to be a lot of big changes out there. Even though there's some ordinances that we could enforce, our first approach is going to be education for the first couple of years, unless we have an extreme violator that just won't listen to us. So we wanted to have some teeth to it, but we're going to be reasonable moving forward. And but I think it is important that if push comes to shove, that we do have a way to address it.
And the sheriff's office is, we have approved and worked with you on 2 additional staff.
Yes.
Just to go out and kind of police some of these areas. I think everybody in the county is aware that, you know, there's just a massive amount of people out there
Correct.
camping.
They're just very rural areas, and without specific assignments to patrol those areas, we wouldn't typically be just doing routine patrol in those areas because we're in the more populated areas dealing with problems that they're having and calls for service. So it will be very helpful, and it has been very helpful. Our deputies have been enjoying the co-op shifts, so.
Oh, good.
They like to get out of the
That's
shore.
fantastic. And by the way, I've received a lot of feedback that people believe that the action that we took on COLOB has really improved it.
Yeah.
And
the camp hosts have been great to work with as well. So it's been nice to have them.
Commissioners, thank you. 95% of the time, just having the presence of law enforcement.
Yeah.
Driving through Warner Valley just helps all of us behave appropriately, right? And you don't need enforcement, you just need presence. I appreciate you guys stepping up and helping make that happen.
And just to spread the word, we don't want somebody thinking, well, don't go to Washington County, you can't camp there. Well, that's not true.
That's not true.
You know, we have campgrounds, we have established areas, we have places
But
where.
we have hotels. We'd prefer anybody coming here to just go to a hotel, pay your TRT, leave the camping to the rest of us.
Kevin's really happy you just said that.
Yeah.
Well,
tourism office is more than happy to find you a hotel room if you want us to come down here.
And I was getting there because it is competition. But having said that, we are working with the BLM and others to provide proper access, and they also don't go into dangerous areas where just because they can make a road over to some place doesn't mean they should.
Right.
And it's maybe damaging to the environment, plus maybe not safe. So all in all, we still want everyone to come here and enjoy, but just do it properly, as this ordinance will help you to do. Great. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 2021-1187-0, an ordinance adopting and implementing Title V, Chapter 5 of Washington County Code regarding dispersed camping on unincorporated and public land within Washington County.
Second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Item number 7, consideration of resolution number R 2021-2812, a resolution appointing members to the Washington County Career Service Council.
Mr. Chairman, this is one of those boards that we need to have. If there's ever a dispute between the county and a county employee. Fortunately, all of our county employees are very happy with their employment here at the county, so we never use it, but we always do appoint people. And we like to thank these people for being on standby. And so the 2 names that we have to resubmit is Michelle Mitchell and Dennis Drake, who have been doing a fantastic job. And I'd like to make a motion that we appoint both of them to the Washington County Career Service Council with a term expiring on June 30th, 2024.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Thank you. Our next item, consideration of resolution number R 2021-2813, a resolution approving a public defender agreement.
Thank you, Commissioners. A current public defender that we have, Lane Wood, he recently took a position within the attorney's office. So we're excited for him on that end, but that's created a little bit of a conflict of interest here. So what we did is we're allowing him to.
That would be interesting to let him work on both sides.
As soon as he accepted the offer with us, he called the bar and looked like, I can handle emergency.
I have to step back, huh?
So we had a little bit of a heads up, or at least I did, and got right to work on advertising for a new public defender position. Worked with our lead public defender, Doug Terry, and then, of course, our indigent committee that we put together. And we did advertise, and today I am recommending Ryan Nilsson take Lane Wood's place as a public defender. This contract will go from September 1st, so I believe that Lane Wood goes through the end of August. So he'll start right September 1st, and then go till December, like all of the other public defender contracts, and then he'll be up for renewal at that time.
Thank you for the explanation. Great. Call for a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consideration of resolution number R-2021-2813, a resolution approving the public defender agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion.
Motion and a second again for S. Ryan Nielsen to fill the remainder of the term in that public defender opening vacated by Lane Wood. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Passes. Kevin, our chief tourist camper.
That's right.
Has a presentation of a new resolution number R 2021-2814, considering revisions to the existing Ironman contract, which we have.
Got that in front of you. As you're weeding through that 55-page document, let's start out with some trivia, though. How many pounds of ice do they use at an Ironman World Championship?
7,822.
Wait a bit more than that. 84,000 pounds of ice.
Oh my goodness.
Just thought that would be a tidbit of information to share as we talk about the changes that are coming up. 84,000 pounds of ice. So, as you're aware, we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and there are travel restrictions that are prohibiting our international athletes from getting here to attend the race this year. And so we've been monitoring this over the last several weeks to see where things were going with the rise of the Delta variant and the COVID pandemic. Those restrictions got even tighter. And so working and consulting with Ironman, we have determined two things that will change the race this year and actually create another one next year. So what you have in front of you is a contract that essentially releases us from the contract that we were in with them and creates the stipulations for moving this year's race. It was going to be a 2-day race, so the women would race on Friday and the men on Saturday. But because of the numbers, we've determined we can do that all in one day. And so rather than have the impacts that would be associated with the 2-day race, we're going to consolidate everything to 1 day. It'll be very similar to the operations of our May race, where that happens on Saturday, and the men and women will race together. The race will still be a world championship race, though all of the people that come here will be qualified to come here. They have to qualify to get there. The pro race will still be substantial. The pros have navigated the COVID circumstances. Most of them are training in the U.S. anyway, and so they're here and can get here. So we'll still have it'll still be a global world championship, but we just won't have the impact from the age group athletes that would normally come from around the globe. And so with that, though, discussions with Ironman about doing that and their appreciation and respect for what we do here and the way we are able to do things here, they brought out the idea of giving us the opportunity to host this again in 2022. in a destination that they have confidence in, that they know we can keep open and we can run a race, and in a community that has the support and the attitude that we have. And so we went forward and had discussions with community leaders and the venues, the state parks and the school district and all of the others that are involved in this event, to see if that felt like a good move, and got support all the way around for doing that. So this contract then allows us to have a one-day race, a one-day World Championship 2021, and then bring the World Championship back to St. George in 2022 on October 28th and 29th, 2022. And it defines all of the details of what that would mean. Questions?
Well, do we get to keep the MDOT sculpture in place then?
I think that's one of the beauties of that, is that'll probably just stick around for another year and we'll celebrate it again. We will come up with a new theme for a race, because this isn't a 2021 repeat. It's going to be its own World Championship. It'll have its own theme, and create a really individual event for those athletes that come there. But that'll give all of the global, hopefully the world's healed a little bit, the travel restrictions are released, and we can get the global audience back here and give them the opportunity to experience the destination and the communities that we have.
So if you get to host 2 Ironmen for 2 years in a row, does that reduce your stress in the second year?
Well, let's hope so. And especially over the last 2 weeks, let's hope the stress goes down.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of the things that we put together for this year will just be, re-implemented. We've got the foundation laid for that. Good news is the costs go down significantly to host this year's event, because it's a one-day event, and the rights fees and everything were negotiated down. So all of that is lower to compensate for the lack of athletes and so forth. But then if we get the full audience back again next year, we'll get that economic impact back. So we're estimating probably between 12 and 15 million this year in economic impact, and then 20 to 25 million next year. So in essence, we just scored another world championship.
Another race.
Yeah, it's kind of, a lot of work, but a lot of, I guess, glory in that as well. We're a destination that can do that, and it's great to have the respect of, a global brand like Ironman, who would come back to us and say, we want to do it there again, and we know you guys can do it.
Well, great.
It's kind of like a movie being so good before you've even seen it that they've already planned the sequel, right? That's pretty good props to the tourism office. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I like the fact that Kevin never backs down from a challenge like this. I'm pretty sure next year he's going to be coming in with some sort of Olympic bid contract that he would like us to consider. So,
yeah.
Of course, Brittany's down there going, no.
Brittany's shaking her head. There may be some dissension.
I just want to know. I know Brittany's not at the podium, but I'm going to have to ask her after, off the record, if this was her idea or if she was consulted in this decision, or if Kevin just came rushing in and said, "Great news! We get to host 2 Ironmen next year as well."
Who was the first person I called? Yeah, she is certainly smarter than I am in all of this stuff, and so I went right to her to try and weigh the odds of this out and see what happened, and she is supportive.
You got to work on your
at some level.
So, very good.
Well, thank you. And I know that in many sports, it's seldom that they have a repeat in the same city for something that's global, that it does jump around. So the fact that they trust us to put it on again is amazing.
I will tell you that when you look at the footage of the Ironman in our community, you just have to step back for a second and go, holy cow, we live in an amazing photogenic photogenic, I think that applies to human beings, but anyway, it is very well photographed.
Visually,
it
it's
just
a good
looks
place.
great.
Good place to
Gorgeous.
put an event like that.
I mean, even those photos from like the sunrise when everybody was getting in the lake, just the most gorgeous views. And so, I guess we love our area, except for the campers that hang out. We want everybody to come and stay in a hotel room and pay TRT. Yeah. And but anyway, leave the camping to the locals, right?
Right.
But you have a beautiful area.
I'll express too. I share this with everybody, the athletes come here and they do love the beauty. There's no question about that. They see it and they love it. When they're racing, they're not paying attention to it.
I bet.
But what they are paying attention to are the people that are behind the scenes and the support and the cheering and the agencies and all of that. That's what they recognize. That's what they remember. And those two things come together to make really a world-class event. And, it speaks well of us. It speaks well of the commissioners and those who have kept our community running through this pandemic, and we've been able to do this. The fact that we're still hosting a race it speaks volumes to who we are and what we're able to accomplish. So kudos to all of you as well, and thank you for your support.
Now, did you tell them my position on masks so the next time when I'm down at the finish line?
We actually had a negotiation about that. I can share with you, because their standard, the Ironman standard, is they follow the CDC guidelines at all of their events, and so they came to us with the World Championship suggesting that we would do that, and it was the night that the commission had passed that ordinance, and so I shared that with them and said, I think we need to talk this through a little bit. So they came back with a compromise. So the indoor events, which means just the banquets at the Dixie Center, will be masked events, but everything else. So
That's great, because I don't want Slade to make fun of me when he sees me, at the finish line with a mask,
We're all taking pictures of you at the
I
banquet
know,
that night.
and then I can't post any on social media because I have a mask on. So.
I wasn't going to be there, but I am now.
Anyway, so this contract has been through. Stephen and the attorney's office reviewed it and all, and you guys have had a chance to look it over. So if you're ready to go, I think we're ready to go.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept resolution number R-2021-2814, considering revisions to the existing Ironman contract.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, passes. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Good luck with that.
Item number 10, consideration of resolution number R-2021-2815, a resolution appointing a member to the Hurricane Valley Fire Special Service District. We have a vacancy on that district, and someone had come forward earlier and willing to serve.
Well, actually, we have Chief Coleman here, and he's probably going, what? I thought you already filled that vacancy. And we did. I was appointed to fill Commissioner Cox's position. And then we started to discuss among ourselves and a little bit with the county attorney about the processes and how we are actually kind of a deciding body on certain recommendations that they're going to send to us. And we felt like maybe it would be appropriate that as a county commissioner, I wouldn't be making recommendations to myself, serving on that board. And I do appreciate the great work that Hurricane Valley does. So that was, but we did have an individual who has property inside the county in the unincorporated part.
Yeah, in fact, on the east side as well. So it's appreciative that she's willing to serve, and we put forward the name of Lorraine Cox to serve on the Hurricane Valley Special Fire District and submit that name to serve.
I will second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And I apologize to Chief Coleman for, I don't know if he knew before he saw that on the. I was afraid.
All right. Well, the outstanding final part is the commissioner's report, and I know Adam has something, and then I do.
Just want to report, last week, a group of the federal delegation staff, in conjunction with the 5-county and the 6-county associations of government, spend a year planning. They've done this for many years, and they've changed it for the better to really focus on the people that need to receive a Western education. And they bring out staffers from offices in Washington, D.C., both committee and member offices from Congress, and bring them out here for a tour for 3 or 4 days and show them various issues. We present, here's the situation, and it's surprising how many times they come up with the right solution when you just present it to them. And they say, why don't you just do this? And you say, well, that'd be a really good idea, except for your boss voted no against that last year. And it is the first year, several years ago, we had one staffer come out. by refocusing last year, we unfortunately had to postpone because of COVID, but this year we had 18.
Oh, that's great.
Which is 20 is about the max that we can bring onto a bus without getting too much bigger. But all 11 counties between the two associations of government contributed, along with many other government agencies and entities, the state. It was a fantastic tour. One that they uniformly all responded as the best. It's what we call the staff Dell trip, best staff Dell they'd ever been on, and just really educational. And the best part about it is that we as a county are able to form relationships with those staffers. Over half the majority staff of the Natural Resources Committee was here.
Oh, that's great.
And so next time we have an issue here in Washington County, I have all their phone numbers, and I'll pick up the phone and call Lily or whoever it is that need to, especially we actually specifically targeted those over the National Park Service. And so when we have issues, it's those relationships that will help us move the needle. So we'll be planning that again for next year, and I hope the county will participate again, because it's a great thing.
Really
That's
is.
great. Thank you, Adam. Yeah, often in Washington DC, the only voice there is somebody who doesn't live in Utah, doesn't own land in Utah, doesn't care about anything, is only creating their own opinions from hearsay, and staffers and others kind of have to buy it because that's the only voice they're hearing. So when they come out here, and Adam's being humble, when he worked for Congressman Stewart, he put this whole trip together. So prior to his being elected here to this position.
Well, when you go back to Washington, D.C., and you say we have some issues with the BLM, people think you're just expressing your white privilege. And what we're doing is just trying to explain public land issues. So
If nothing else, they took away the people that live in the West, especially in Utah, do not want to rape, pillage, and plunder the land. We're not just looking to exercise all of our resources and then leave it desolate after us, that we really do love where we live, and we take care of it well. We're good stewards. And if you can change that perception in that many people's minds,
absolutely,
we move the needle.
That's good to know. Well, and I have something to report. I know that everyone in the last couple of weeks has received their tax notices in the mail, or at least the preliminary, and therefore it has caused quite a stir because everyone's taxes seems to have gone up, especially on existing properties or homes. And consequently, I know that our clerk auditor's office, our treasurer's office, assessor's office, anybody at all that they could get a hold of except maybe the road crew has received phone calls saying, wow, my taxes went up 25%. And we're trying to explain to them that there's normal ways that properties are taxed, and that if you have an existing home, with the exception of an area that might have increased property values in its own area per se, that typically the value of the home that's been appraised will be offset on the tax by a lower mill levy that is multiplied through. However, the state legislature and locally, they also said they would freeze that mill levy. Most people heard, well, they'll freeze my tax. In other words, my tax won't go up. No, they actually froze the multiplier. And so when your when your value went up, the multiplier was frozen and stayed the same, thereby causing you to pay more tax. We don't want to say, hey, call the school districts, not my problem, but in reality, that's where it's coming from. And let me just give you my own exact numbers. My taxes went up $285. $17 of that was from county sources. In other words, various other items there that deserved that modest increase. However, the vast majority, obviously, everything but $17 was state and local school tax. And you can at least get that explained a little bit better, and still call if you'd like, but we wanted publicly to explain just how that happened, and that we're not raising your taxes to build anything, but it will enhance the coffers of the school district for sure.
Kim Hafen, who is an exceptional clerk auditor, I can remember when he pointed this out to me over and over again. He says, it looks like the state legislature is raising taxes without truth in taxation. And so that's really kind of what happened. You know, the state legislature has asked local governments to have a conversation with the public whenever we're going to ask for more money. And yet, in this particular case, they just kind of, like you said, froze that multiplier. And so we would ask that the citizens kind of understand the tax policy that has led to this increase, understand that it wasn't done at the local level, that we are working, we still are the lowest mill levy county in the state, and we work really hard to keep people's money in their pocket as much as possible.
And I think from the audit that we just saw from our accountants showed that there were fund balances there which are paying for a new administration building as this building and other facilities have aged, and our desire to put everyone under the same roof, with the exception of the attorney's office. It has a nice building of their own close to the courthouse where it makes sense. And having said that, obviously people will look and say, well, they're building that new building and that's why they raised my taxes. Reality is that's couldn't be further from the truth. So please, like Commissioner Iverson said, you know, educate yourself on how this works, and we'll be happy to do that and move forward.
Absolutely.
Anything else? Having said that, we'll be adjourned. Thank you, everyone.